Welcome. In this video, I'll show you how to set up and deploy with Visual Studio Release Management. I'm going to explain both the release agents and the remote PowerShell. So what you need to actually get this going is you need obviously a TFS 2013 update 4. You need the Visual Studio Release Management tools, so the client, the agent, and a server, as well as enabling remote PowerShell on an agent. You need a build to deploy, and you need some deploy scripts. So how do you actually enable remote PowerShell on a target server? You can actually just run this command here on your remote agent. So you would run enable-ps remoting-force and then the winrm quick config-transport HTTP. So in this video, we're actually going to talk about token files for the web project. We're going to review our deployment scripts under source control. We're actually going to review the release templates, both for agent and remote PowerShell. We're going to deploy through a pipeline. I'll actually just use the agent base. I'll show a few tips for debugging, and then we'll actually validate the deployment. So let's first start by talking about the tokens. So you'll notice that there's a web.config in here, and then there's the webconfig.token file. So the webconfig consists of a straightforward web.config that comes with your web project. You can see here that I have one application setting, which is to create a variable called env. And then in the website per se, in the code, you'll see that I actually just take the value of env and I'm actually putting it in my label here. So it's fairly simple, but it's just to explain the point here. So my variable is called env, and if I'm a developer, it's going to just put developer on the website because that's what's being used by the web config. Now the webconfig.token is exactly the same file, and that's important. You need to keep both these things in sync. And what you do is you replace the value with a token value. So the token is always underscore underscore whatever variable you want underscore underscore. And how do we actually make that work under RM is we go back to our component, and if I'm looking at my demo website component, we'll see that in the configuration variable, I have my env here, which you'll notice doesn't have the underscore underscore at both ends. So this is the value that will get replaced in the web config after the installation, and it's going to replace in the web config. So this is basically how things work out. As the build goes, we actually take a release template build, and that will actually do a task to copy the web.config.token on top of the web config in the build output. So if we look at a build output, we're actually going to see that the web.config will actually be this version here with the token. Next, we're actually going to look at our scripts, our deployment scripts. And for our case, I'm actually going to look at both the agent-based script and the vnext script. So let's start with the agent-based script. Both of them are the same, but we don't need parameters when we're talking about remote PowerShell. So we'll look at that after. So the intent here is to pass in the name of the site, the port that's going to be used by the site, the source path, and the target path. We are basically verifying if the website exists. If it does, we want to actually remove the site. If the app pool exists, we want to make sure that we also remove the app pool. So both these things can and you can decide not just to validate if it exists, and if it exists, then just ignore the creation of this site. I decided to basically restart new every time and basically just remove the website, remove the app pool, and if there's a target path, remove the target path. And then what I do is I create a new directory, I create a new app pool, and then I create a new site, and basically just robocopy the source and the target. So my source is going to be my build location, and then my target is where it's going to be on the disk for my website to actually work. Then I actually just make all the attributes of my site to be normal. And finally, I start my app pool. So it's very simple, and it basically does a wipe and replace of my website every time it's being run. So let's look at the vNext version, so the remote PowerShell one. So you'll notice that there is no passing a variable to my PowerShell. Essentially, I'm taking some values that are coming from RM. And when we actually look at the template in a minute, we'll see what's happening here. So essentially, the package location is coming from RM, and all these things here are the RM website, RM port, and RM target are all coming from RM as well. And you'll also notice that my source path is actually doing a return from one directory and go to my publish website. And I'll explain why we do that in a minute. The difference between also the remote PowerShell is that it doesn't do the token replacement. So we have to do our own token replacement. I wrote some code at the bottom here which actually goes through and finds all the tokens that have a underscore underscore and then anything in here and then underscore underscore and then actually fixes that and replaces what's there. But in essence, the script does the same thing. So it's looking for the site, it's looking for the app pool, it's looking for the directory, it removes all of these, and then it basically recreates all these things, robocopies everything, make sure everything is normal. Then I actually do my token replacement in the web config with basically a little loop that gets an expression and then invokes that value and then basically replace the web config with this. And then I rewrite the web config with the replaced values in there, and then I finally start the app pool. So it's very similar, does pretty much the same thing, except we're using variables passed from RM at the beginning here. So let's look at the component here. You'll notice that the source of this component actually goes to /ops script. And that's essentially why I'm using the ... to go back one level, because the build drop location is, if I actually open my build here and we actually look at the value here, we'll actually see that this is / drops demo website and then this value here. I'm actually going inside ops scripts. So I actually want to go back one level and then go to publish websites. And that's why the path to the target is actually going to be always ... Now the reason also for this is that if I was to just basically point to the drop location, which I could, then it would copy the whole content of the drop. So if my build drop is gigs in size, then it would copy gigs of data over to the target and then basically copy those gigs of data over to the the target location, so essentially doing a double copy, which I don't want to do. So that's why I'm actually just going to my scripts, which are 5K files, so it's not very big to copy over, and then I basically copy from the destination, which from the source, which is a share, over to my local value. So let's look at the agent-based template here. I'm going to actually open the demo website. We'll see that essentially to create this, I need to drop the agent on my template here, on my deployment sequence, and then basically drop my component in here. Once I open that up, essentially I want to run a PowerShell script, which is my deploy website agent, which we just looked at. This PowerShell script actually uses a name, so I need the name of my site, then the port, I'm going to use 10555, and then the source path, and you'll notice here that I have package location ... /publish website. So package location is an internal variable that basically points to the root of where my package is. So in this case, the root is going to be this build drop location / ops script. So this is now becoming package location. So because of that, I need to actually go back to and then go up to publish website. And then finally, the last parameter is target. So I want to go to C inetpub root, and then finally demo website dev2. And then my env, I want to replace my token with dev. And for that, I need to actually give it the same location as my target location. And what I can do is I can right click, copy, and then all the other location are exactly the same, but here instead of actually using Dev, I'm actually using test and I'm replacing test here and I'm using another port. And it's the same for UAT and prod. Let's look at the vNext template, so the remote PowerShell version. So I'm actually going to open that. And here we essentially don't need to drag the server here. We just need to deploy the action. And my action is going to be deploy using PowerShell or remote PowerShell if you want. So if we open that up, we'll see that there's a lot more information here. I need to pick the server. So it'll be the agentless server if you want, or the remote PowerShell server. I need to actually put the user ID and password of who's actually going to run this PowerShell. Then which component do I want? So in this case, I want my demo website vNext. Here you'll notice that I just need to put the PowerShell, no dot slash, no parameters at all, just the PowerShell I want to run. And that's basically the difference. Those are other parameters that you'll see on the website. But essentially here we'll see that I have all the custom variables that I actually want to use. So my website name, the target path, the website port, and the package location is built into RM, so I don't need to pass it on. So essentially I'm doing the same thing here. I just open that up and then we can see that I'm using test here instead of dev and etc. So very similar, they do pretty much the same thing. So now let's go back to agent base and let's just deploy. So I can just select the template I want to use, do a new release. This will pop up this new release window. And then from here, I can give it a name if I want to. I can pick a new release template if I want to. The target stage is I want to go all the way to the end. So I want to deploy the whole pipeline. And then which build do I want to use? So I can actually select a build and then pick, let's say, the last 7 days. And then I see one here. So if I pick the last 14 days, we would see a little bit more builds here available. So I can pick an old one if I need to redeploy. But I can also just pick the latest, and that'll take the latest build, put it in here. And what I do is I just take that build and give that as the name of the build that I'm actually going to do. And I'm just going to basically hit start. So we can see that the deployment actually went from dev to test to UAT to prod. We can actually go look in and look at the log of what was deployed. So in this case, I created some paths and I robo-copied my stuff into here. I don't have a lot of text, but I could add some more information as to how and what was deployed. So I can actually go in all these places and actually look at that. We can actually go on the disk and look at our www root and look at our dev site. The date is 3/17, so we see at 3 o'clock, which is the time I'm recording this. So we can see that this was recreated, and it actually deployed this 3.12 build, and everything was deployed successfully. And we can see that if I go to the 10.555 site, it was deployed, and dev is the environment that I'm looking at. So if you need to debug, you can open a file explorer and go to temp folder of the account that actually is running your agent. So in this case, my user that's actually running is the TFS account. So if I go to app data, local, and we actually look under temp, we'll see that there's an RM folder. And if we go down here, we'll see that we have our demo website component. And in here, if we actually look, we'll see our actual deployment, which is here. And if I go in here, we'll see the folder that was actually copied over to my agent here. So those are all of my scripts, the deploy scripts, and not the whole build. And then from here, I can actually just open this and I can see the same log I was seeing in the other tool. So it's under the agent, the agent account that's actually running the agent, and the temp folder in local for that agent that you can actually find all those files that are being deployed. So in conclusion, if you want more information about release management, you can actually navigate to this URL. Thank you for your attention.